Hey, ladies and gentlemen, our next guest on Talking Business is an incredible person that I've crossed paths with recently. He is the president and creative director of an organisation called Spirit Media. That organisation was founded in January of 1992 and has had an incredible journey, as most organisations do, pivoting backwards and forwards like a yacht tacking in the wind. He's worked with some incredible talent, both corporate from the likes of Adidas, ESPN, Lightspeed Aviation, the Mazda Corporation, Nike, Pixelworks, some incredible organisations. He's on the board at Tech Labs after doing some work with them. Some incredible not-for-profit organisations, including the Red Cross, the Christian Values Network, something that's close to my heart, the Boy Scouts Association. I'm a Queen Scout, for those in the audience that didn't realise. Some incredible entertainers of the likes of Alec Baldwin, Arnold Schwarzenegger, some incredible people. One of my most favourite bands, the Black Eyed Peas. See, he's got some incredible insights from lessons that he's learnt with working with Gwen Stefani. An incredible educational profile there on his, in terms of looking at what he's got in terms of career experience. He's an advisory board member at Tech Labs, which is a really exciting organisation in Albany in Oregon. He's on the board of directors of Greater Portland Incorporated, and also on the board of directors at Lightspeed Aviation. Now, the thing that I'm going to be investigating with Bill, and the thing that I love most, and you can't Google this, is some of his time from 1979 to 1992 with Walt Disney Television. And that is some of the foundations of people's careers that I do love to explore here at Talking Business on Best Practice. Hey, Bill, welcome.
Well, hey, Kobe, how you doing? I'm excited to meet this guy based upon the intro you gave. Gosh.
Let me tell you, his mum is very proud.
Yeah, my mother was very proud of me, yes.
Hey, Bill, I know we'll get to it, and the audience is going to be super keen to hear about your book that you launched, and I think that's about 2 years ago now. And we'll get into that. I'll let you introduce it. I want to just quickly talk about foundations. We've got a great audience on TikTok, for example, and you've got this incredible career in free-to-air television. I think I read while I was doing my research something like 3,000. The production and directing of 3,000, commercial, we would call them ads, back in the day, or, infomercials kind of thing on domestic free-to-air television. Talk to me about your career as a 20-year-old. Tell me what life was like back in the day when things were booming in television. Well,
it was a dream come true for me. I mean, growing up, this was long before the internet and before all the literally hundreds of different channels via satellite or streaming or cable. And here in the States, there are 3 primary networks and then a bunch of independents. And so growing up, the American Broadcasting Company, which is now owned by Disney, was honestly, I thought was the coolest, absolutely the coolest. And so for me growing up, I always thought, gee, it would be cool to work there. It'd be cool to do that. And I didn't know. I actually thought I wanted to be in front of the camera. But after going to school and studying college, I found out I had a knack for directing. So I was very, very fortunate to get an internship. And there's a story around that. I'll save that for another time about cookies. But I'll tell you that off camera. But the thing is, it landed me a job when I was 20 years old while I was still in the middle of college. And it was like a dream come true. I walked into the opportunity to work with celebrities, great directors, great producers, great agencies. It was Disneyland, if you will, for me. And it filled my heart, but it taught me and it pushed me. And the one thing that I love about working in the entertainment industry, and specifically at a high level, is that if you really have a passion to be good at your craft, there's few things better than being mentored by the best and being pushed by the best and surrounded by the best. They elevate your game and they keep your sights high. And when you live with those standards, all you can do is just grow. And that's what I did. I grew, and I learned, and I screwed up, and I failed, and I got up, and I tried again, and people would help me and support me, and it was an incredible season.
Yeah, that's incredible, and that's something that when we talk to a lot of our audience, particularly on platforms like TikTok, for example, or Instagram, these principles are they're not new principles. My career started probably after you'd kicked off yours. My career basically started 1990. And the same principles, doing an internship. My first internship was free, and I think that proximity to the great masters of the craft, and I think that's a great question for anyone listening to really be looking at who are the masters of the craft that you're interested in. If you look at your browser history, you look at who you're following. If you could do anything tomorrow, what would you be looking into? What would you explore? And look at the masters in those areas. And if you can get proximity, particularly through voluntary internships, as senior people and more experienced people and the masters of our craft, we just want to train apprentices who are motivated, excited, and love what they're doing. So, I think that's a great lesson, Bill, that I think the younger generation can explore. Tell me something about, you just touched on there that, you kind of thought you wanted to be in the camera, because I think, there's a bit of the limelight side of things. And there's certainly, that opportunity for people, right now you can do like what we're doing. And if you're good, the audience will come to you, more so now than, being behind a promotional team, when there was only 3 networks. Tell me about the moment in time, or the gradual moments in time that showed that you had a knack for directing, for example.
Well, really, it happened in college, and it was 90 days into school. I stepped into a television production program in my home region. And, of course, when you study television, you've got to do everything. So you're doing writing, and you're studying media, and then you're learning about cinematography. But one of the things that we took, and I got to sit in on, was directing. And we produced a broadcast, a weekly broadcast, and we would take rotations. And it was my turn to be the director. And I remember when I was the director, it just came so naturally to me. I visualized the shots. I knew how to call the show. I knew how to create a strategy for the program. And and I still had thought, I was going to maybe be in front of the camera. But I remember my professor pulling me aside. I remember pulling me into his office alone. And it changed my life. And I just say this because you never know the role you play in someone's life, and that every word you say has power, and some have lasting legacy building power. And that happened that day when Ralph, my instructor, pulled me in. He said, Bill, I want you to know that of all the people who've gone through this program, you are one of the most naturally born directors I've ever seen. And there's only one other person I've ever seen like you, and he's currently the head of production over at ABC. So he goes, I hope you stay with the program because you're good.
and look at where you are now. Look, I think it's an incredible, it's an incredible repertoire of work that spans, and it's hard to summarize. You can go and check out Bill's LinkedIn page. There's a great summary there, and it's hard to distill down those hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours of work that get put in. So, let's fast forward to today. It's been a really interesting couple of years in terms of looking at the pandemic and looking at the work that you're doing with work now, with where there's demand for Spirit Media services, and I think getting into virtual events, message strategy, video production. And working with some amazing organisations and some small ones too. Yeah. Where do you think small businesses get it wrong right now, in terms of they can go directly to market like we are right now. They can run a virtual event on Zoom. They can email their email list. They can set up a link, and 30 or 40 or 100 people, or 200 people if they're lucky, can turn up on a Zoom. Where are small businesses getting it wrong? What are some of the 3 fundamental rules of directors and producers? Where are small businesses getting it wrong? Because that's what they are right now, the director and a producer of that.
Well, they really are. And it actually goes to the first discipline in my book, and will actually be the centerpiece of my next book, because my next book will be Discover Your Brand Soul. And it goes down to this, that we spend so much energy focusing on what and how that we forget to ask why. And when things get tough and all you have is a boat with a bunch of oars, all you know how to do is just paddle. And that's what we see a lot of businesses doing. And I've been in that place. There's something about change, because we don't like change. We like to know what's going to happen. We'd rather walk into a bright room than a dark room, because we want to see where we're going. And so the fear of change, the fear of unknown, causes a lot of us to have varying levels of anxiety. And we're going to resort back to the bad behaviors that have imprisoned us to the place we are already, and just do more of it. And so I ask people in my book to ask the question why, and not just understand what you want to do, but why you want to do it. And I really ask people the same way that I did through my college career, and I still do it today. That we all have to have a deep, honest conversation with ourselves on a regular basis and check in. And I ask people not just to discover your passion, because people say, oh, if you get your passion right, you never have to work a day in your life, which, come on, we know that's garbage. There's a lot of people who have passions for which they have no aptitudes, and they're trying to make a career out of what should be a hobby. And that is a major, major failure that a lot of businesses have. The second thing is that a lot of people have aptitudes for which they don't have passions. And those are dutiful, wonderful people working their fannies off, but really all you get when you have aptitude with no passion is a job. But when you combine passion and aptitude, and you look at your life experiences, every single one of those has been like providing a trajectory to give you insight to not just what you do or how you do, but why you do it, and a sense of authentic purpose. And operating in your purpose is hard. I'll just say that, because everything is great. You think about anything in the world that's ever happened, someone said, wow, that was a great accomplishment. The single denominator among all of them was that it was hard. And when we look at things, we go, oh, that's hard. It must not be meant to be. It's garbage. That's really not right. If it's meant to be, it's because we have thoughtfully considered what are our passions, what are our aptitudes, what have been the experiences of our life that has led us to this point, and now use that as a springboard as to what the next chapter of my life looks like. And once you understand that fundamental piece, then you can move into, how will that work? What does that look like? And you start operating strategically and reflectively rather than reactively. And to me, that is foundational not only to good business, but especially business in crisis.
Yeah. Okay. So with the transformation to, in terms of messaging, if you like, we're trying to, get brand messages out, and I think you've got some really amazing, videos that I'd like some of the audience, go binge on Bill on his Facebook page. So if you just search on Facebook, Bill Dolan, we'll drop the link below this episode, and have a troll through some of Bill's videos, like back in kind of late 2019, and I'll put some links to some ones that are some of my favorites, that, you start thinking about, what is the brand experience? So when you're really thinking about, Bill and I were chatting just before we kind of kicked off the show about the energy that I have, for example, and what's the Kobe experience? What's it like to hang out with Kobe for a day or a couple of days? My wife will tell you it's exhausting. But there's lots of, we're trying to have lots of fun. It's light humor. There's dad jokes in there. And then there's experiencing different food, and then there's maybe thinking about what we're going to do. I'm thinking about, activities, and there's hope because we're talking about, what future things we're going to be doing, and it's about creating a meaningful life and getting through our bucket list. That's the brand experience. So when you start, working with an organization and you've done that piece of work, you're kind of thinking about, those things you just mentioned. How do you bring someone, what are the kinds of questions that you ask someone to think about so that you can, say they're setting up a virtual event, for example, or they're setting up a live event and Spirit Media is helping with that. What are some of the kinds of questions that you ask someone so that you can kind of create this event that's got this brand experience?
Okay, you ready for a fire hose?
Absolutely. Here it comes. Bring it on.
Well, I'll tell you, based around that idea of like purpose, we need that for our lives, but we need that for every project. We need that for every business. And so I'll ask, these are kind of crazy questions, but I'll say, for this project, what is the purpose? Why are you doing it? Well, it should be obvious. We want to, no. Get clear, why are we doing this? And then I'm going to say, what are the missions we need to accomplish to do this? For example, I work with a lot of sales organizations. They do sales training and they want to do big events for their groups, whether it's, 100 people or 100,000 people. We've done them both. And I want to understand, what do you want to have happen to fulfill that purpose? And then I will attach goals because we need measurables. We need metrics. When I worked in television, there wasn't a show that we didn't do that we didn't look at the metrics every day. And I could see by every 15-minute increment what people are watching. Even back in the archaic days of broadcast, I could look at that and then I could maneuver and change our lineup in a way that honored the audience. And so metrics is critical. And you set up what are those metrics going to be. And, of course, there's lead and lag. I won't go into that. But there's things that you need to do. And then vision. And I ask people that I want to know what at the end of this is going to cause you to wrap your arms around me, cry tears of joy, and name your children after me. What will happen? And that's a vision question. And in my book, I talk about that really vision isn't just like a statement like, blah, 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 we're going to do this. No, a vision is so crystal clear, it's like the cover of a puzzle box. So that you can look at that puzzle box and say, I know what I'm making. I know what the outcome is. Because, you talked about earlier about challenges that businesses make today and in general. Most of them go out pulling puzzle pieces out of the air or the puzzle pieces that people will sell them. And then they try to figure out, what am I going to build with this? And it's backwards. What you want to do is get clarity about what you want to build, and then you acquire the pieces. And that has power in two ways. Number one, you get the right pieces. Your team sees what pieces we're building. And number three, I said two, but it's really three. Third way is you reject those pieces that don't belong in your puzzle. Quit wasting time chasing puzzle pieces or buying into stuff that people want to sell you because it's a tactic and it gives you the illusion that it's a one-switch button that's going to change your life. No, there is no one-switch button that's going to change your life. It is a series of deliberate and strategic acts that will accumulate to produce an outcome that you have thoughtfully considered in your vision. So when I get that, from there it goes down to who's our market? Who are we targeting here? Now, in television, we have these broader demographics, and we do it by generations, we do it by age groups, we do it by professional sectors. And some, of course, in social media, you can micro-niche. I was talking to a friend today, and he's literally talking about micro-niching different markets. But the thing is that many businesses fail because they try to be Adidas and Nike and Microsoft, all of whom I've worked with, but each one of those companies has clear markets. And instead of mimicking the concept of I'm going to talk to everybody and essentially talk to nobody, I'm going to make my marketing a love letter that's going to be intimate, relevant, meaningful, compelling, and actionable. So when we know that market, we can now craft experiences for them. For example, I'm not going to, do balloon animals, for the next sales party. It's just probably not going to be a good fit. But I might save it if I was asked to do a kids' party, for my kids. So once you know that, it takes you to that third stage. And that is, what is the messaging and content that's going to be meaningful and relevant? And I have a process in my book. I talk about the 10-digit human address. It's a tool we use the same way if you have a phone number or you have an address. You say, well, how do I get to the front door of their house? Well, there's a way you can get to the front door of people's house simply by reverse engineering that 10-digit human address. And then from there, be able to go, boom, knock on the door, boom, knock on the door. And even more important, if you do it meaningful and relevant, and people see you as someone that's going to deliver the outcomes they want, the transformation they want, they're going to open the door and beg you to come in.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately where a great relationship is.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you just talked about the front door of the house, because there's a story I want you to tell around, and I think you know where I'm going to go with this. I want you to tell me about a time when you realized that you didn't go in the front door of your friend's house. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we do. We often, especially those of us in the digital age, we talk about the website being the front door of our house, and you want to come through the front door. But if you really think about it, for me, when I was a kid, my best friends, I never went through the front door. That was for the adults. That's where you slip through and take off your shoes. As a friend, you're coming through the garage. You're coming through the kitchen door. You're coming through the basement door. That's where friends come in. Because it's not that we're trying to be sequestered off, so you're not seen on the porch. But it's because you have the relationship that's already so well established that you even sometimes just walk in without knocking. And that's one of the areas where if you are able to establish a brand relationship and not just try to pitch a transformational buy from me type of thing, there's a real breakthrough so that you don't have to think about the formality of a sales process. And you can just follow the natural, organic process of a relationship process. But quick tip, the relationship has to be real. It has to be real. Okay, another story. I don't think I told this on social media because I couldn't figure out a good way to say it. But I'm going to tell you, Kobe, maybe for the first time. And that's this. I don't know for you guys, when you were in school or high school and you went out on that first date, it's the first time you get introduced to girls and pretty girls and all that, and you get to go out on a date. And one of the challenges you have to be careful of is, where are your eyes? And you're trying to remember, okay, I want to look her in the eyes. I want to look her in the eyes. And guess what? If your eyes go anywhere but in her eyes, she knows. She can read right through you. And even if you're trying to have your intentions honorable, your eyes speak the truth about whatever's going through your head. And you know what? This happens to salespeople all the time. It's not that they're looking not in my eyes, but you know what they're looking? They're looking at my wallet.
Yeah,
and
100%.
You can feel it.
Absolutely.
You feel it when someone's looking at your wallet.
Yeah, look,
So
I'm an absolute gentleman. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I'm an absolute gentleman. I only look at the covered bits of bikinis. But it's true. It's exactly right. You're exactly right. I think that we spend a lot of time, when we're working with our clients or even here with our own sales team. It's not our job to look at our client's wallet. It's our job to help our client have an easier life. We talk about the purpose, for example. We're here to help organizations to be better places to work, have better buying experiences and be better investments for their owners. Like, that's our vision. And we have a lot of fun trying to find out all the different ways, of achieving that. And I think that authenticity and trust that you talk about, in your book and also in lots of your videos and your content is that it's our job, whether we do a commercial relationship or not, the friendship, coming in the side door. We want our customers to come in the side door. We want to be able to go in the side door, of their place of work too, or even home, in terms of building relationships, because that's what friends do, and so in building that relationship, friends don't look at each other's wallets. They're not like, oh, I'm just going to greedily take from this. It's like, it's give and give and give and not always take. And so, and the first way for a salesperson to fail is to be thinking about the dollars instead of future pacing the customer and saying, look, what would make this customer or this person's life amazing, and how can I facilitate that because I can do it more efficiently or easier than someone else, for example. So I think, just actually on that, let's just, you've got some great stories that you tell about, correct me if I've got the titles right, but directing the Gwen Stefani show. Talk to me about, what's Gwen Stefani's vision, when you're talking there and saying, all right, what's the vision for the event? And then when that message is brought across to you, how do you actually bring that to life? Tell me some of those stories of what you learned working with Gwen Stefani.
Well, probably, the single biggest wake-up call working with Gwen was this. And it's a harsh lesson, but it's an important one. And I say this certainly with a sense of encouragement, because for those people that, if you're in business and you feel like, okay, this is my call to go out in front and to be the marketer, to be the deliverer, to be the executor, whatever like that, the truth is you're going to be bad before you get good. And that's okay. Gwen actually started her career singing in the garage with her brother in Orange County, just actually blocks from Disneyland. And she's on a show right now that judges people's voices to see if they believe that they've got the stuff to go in the big time. And Gwen, God bless her, she actually kind of talks like, she is not like an opera singer kind of voice. But she's got style, she's got presence. And here's the thing that really woke me up as she took what gift she had and just continued to grow and grow and grow. I also realized that she had something that is so powerful that you can develop, but I also think some people are born with, and that is the ability to change an atmosphere when they walk in a room. And that relates a lot to the television industry and the world I work in with. I have a company that produces television shows too, and movies and in production with things like that. And one of the big decisions we have to make is casting. We've got our storyline, we've got our audience, we've got our strategy, but we have to ask, who is the best messenger? Which is another principle out of the book. Who is the best messenger? And Gwen, when she came on, she didn't write a lot of her stuff. She wrote some of it. But people would hand her material, and still do to this day, because they realize she's a powerful messenger. And so, as I'm talking to businesses, the thing that I try to encourage is recognize there is a thing called casting. After you go through strategy and messaging, you have to think, who is the best face of the living embodiment of your brand? And just sticking up a logo isn't going to do it, because no one has a relationship with your logo. Nike, our hometown heroes, good folks at Nike, became really the global Nike after they attached people to their brand. So the Michael Jordans of the world and things like that. Then you go, oh, because Michael just does it, I can just do it. The logo didn't do it. The relationship with somebody. So as a business, think about who is the living embodiment of your brand. In the same way that Gwen didn't always write her stuff, but she became the embodiment, you have to think about that for you. And just a quick note about Gwen. My wake-up call was in the middle of a show. It was about 20,000 people in an arena. It was completely dark, and they had cleared out. They'd done an opening band, and now there was anticipation. And then a beat started to hit. Boom, 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 boom. It started to echo through, and then people started to clap. No one yelled out and went, "Everybody, Gwen Stefani." No one said that. What happened is she had a gateway of dancers that came on, one at a time, with the beat. And when they parted, she stepped out. And she consumed the room. When I cut to that tight shot of her, it's almost like I didn't have to, because her persona filled that room. And when you think about you and Kobe, and you talk about experiences, don't think about just creating what I call the left front cortex experience. This part of your brain is all about words and logic. But people make decisions based upon the limbic system. How does it make you feel? And I always ask people, when this is done, what do you want people to know? What do you want people to feel? And what do you want people to do? And so when you go in understanding that, the right message, the right strategy, the right cast, it's transformational because now you've created differentiation and no one can compare themselves to you. You are a key like a fingerprint that will open a lock that only you can open.
Yeah. How do you have the conversation with, say you're working with a business, we're in this business to business space, and, there's lots of businesses getting into social media, and, there's people starting to buy cameras and have lights and all that kind of stuff. We're a consulting organization. We have a studio, Yeah. How do you have the conversation with a director and just say, look, sorry, you didn't make the cut. We need to use somebody else as the cast for these videos to front your business. How do you have that conversation?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's nothing around. It's awkward. It's awkward. It's funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday about this very situation, and I said that ultimately the only way to really have that conversation is to remind people what our shared values and our shared goals are. Say, what are we trying to accomplish? And I say there is in this business, no rejection. It's just direction. And so I always encourage people to just be honest and say, we looked at this, we did the comparison, and we just feel like this is the best person for that role. And it's nothing against you. It's just we're putting two puzzle pieces together. No critique on the quality of the puzzle pieces. It's just, do they fit?
Yeah.
And in this case, it didn't fit. But no matter whatever poetry you try to put on it, it's awkward. And everybody has to decide, am I going to receive this as rejection or direction? And as a director, you've got to be courageous. And as someone that's doing business with other people, you have to be courageous. But you have to be willing to have those awkward conversations and then be able to move past them. Yeah,
cool. Let's get technical for a minute, because I want to explore, you've got this incredible experience and lineage, the timeline of your career. And we've got 20-year-old, and even younger in some instances, creators. They're getting a GoPro, they're getting it, the latest iPhone 12, 13, whatever number we're up to, piece of equipment. As a director, just a couple of really micro questions. I'm going to go really down in the weeds right now. Is it important to have two cameras and get two different shots if they're recording a video for their Facebook page?
Well, that's a tough question because it depends. The reason we have two cameras, in large part, in fact, it's a live editing, is because as a director, what I'm trying to do is two things. I'm trying to answer the question that people are asking in their heads where they want to look. Like if we had 5 people in this conversation, as they open their mouth, we turn and we turn. A good director helps facilitate the thing we want to naturally do. But the other thing is we know that people get bored. They just get bored. And visual things that are visually interesting or moving or have pace are going to help keep attention better than something that's static. So if you're doing a Facebook video and it's 5 seconds long, boom, one camera's going to be fine. If you're thinking, I'm going to do a 60-minute, monologue on the history of Beatles, a second camera ain't going to help you.
Yeah. I hear.
It really is, and that's why I even come back to those things about the strategy about who's my audience. For example, I talk about millennials in my book, and everybody gives millennials a bad time. They don't have much focus. They can't keep attention. They always shift around. My personal belief is that millennials have a highly refined BS filter. And what happens is that we get barraged with 5,000 to 10,000 bits of branding information every single day. And this generation currently experiences more bombardment of media information than any time in the history of mankind. So they've had to refine their ability to go relevant, not relevant. And they do that. And so having the technical things like cameras, artistry, visual interest. For example, here, I'm lit. These aren't natural lights. I'm not standing by a window. I actually use professional lights so that I don't look as hideous as I do in the dark. So lighting is a good thing. There's 3 points. There's a key, there's a fill, there's a backlight, there's an environment that tells a story. There's framing that hopefully creates a sense of intimacy rather than distance. I could walk over by Iron Man here, and I could wave and you could still hear me, but you'd lose the intimacy. So every touch point builds or undermines a brand relationship. And if we could get those multi-cameras and things, we can make it visually interesting. But if your content is bad, people are going to exit as fast as they came in.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. So we have a constant debate here about lighting because I want to just get content out and it does slow us down. But you're right. It's obviously highly lit. It is an office environment here. It's not 100% a studio, but I think that is something that we do need to consider. That there are some incredible people out on the internet. A good friend of mine, Gary Vaynerchuk, he won't do lighting. We interviewed his camera guy, David Rock, last week on the podcast, which is really great. And off camera, David's like, "Oh my God, you guys are using lighting! It's so good." So I think, I think some of those technical things, you can Google some of that stuff, 7 principles to be a great director, those kinds of things. So if you are somebody that's listening, you're thinking about getting set up, like I said, everybody, don't go and spend $1 billion on equipment just yet. You can do a lot with, half-decent light and an iPhone. I want to go down in the weeds in another part of the 100%. I want to go down in the weeds in another part of the garden for a couple of minutes when we're talking about live events, because you guys, you've got these incredible services, and I do, there's Bill's got an incredible book, and we're going to drop the links to the book in the description below either the podcast. If you listen to the podcast or any of the video platforms, we'll throw that in. Spirit Media does assist clients with virtual events, live in-person events as they're starting to come back after the pandemic is cooling off a little bit. Obviously, message strategy and video production. For 20 years, I've been talking about, when I'm doing an event myself or when I'm doing a keynote, I hate this concept of death by PowerPoint. Your terminology is the conveyor belt of a pitch deck. How do we get away from that? Like, what does the future look like in terms of how do you, if you're doing a corporate event, how do we get away? What's the alternative to this pitch deck conveyor belt where someone's just got this barrage of slides and it puts everyone to sleep? What's your point? What are your comments there?
Well, start with getting better presenters. I mean, we get stuck with, and I know if you do corporate stuff and I do corporate events, I don't get to pick my cast. My cast hires me. So my job is to make them look really good. And by the way, that's another awkward conversation because I can come up and simply say, we live in a world, number one, where people would rather look at beautiful things.
100%.
And if you question that, go into anybody's house and look at the pictures on their wall. They're about relationships. They're about dreams. They're about things that inspire them. And sometimes they're about very practical things. Like here where I live in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, we have this gorgeous Mount Hood. Everybody has pictures of Mount Hood. We like beautiful things. And unless you're a big horror picture fan, we don't like ugly things. So first principle, quit doing ugly stuff. Start by thinking about how can I beautify this experience. Okay, that's just human nature. But the other thing is, what we do is more than virtual events. What we actually teach people to do is interactive internet television. And if you think about some of the greatest movies or television shows, especially episodic television shows, take your stopwatch, especially comedy shows, and start timing the segments. How long does it take to get from one scene to the next scene, to the next scene, to the next scene? On the average, the greatest episodic television programs of all time run 90 seconds. Yet corporate speakers think it should go 90 minutes. So it's not just a matter of length. It's also about pattern interrupt. Because if all I do is I just keep tapping with my voice for the longest time, you're going to go to sleep. And that's what happens. And also I made reference to the idea of communicating through the limbic system versus the front left cortex. Great stories. The reason people think stories are so great, and they are, they're one of the 6 most viral elements to use when trying to connect with somebody. The thing about story is they have a sense of connection first. Then they have a sense of complexity and chaos. Then they have a sense of coming to a climax, and then there's a calm. Bad presenters look like a train. And I call these train events. If you've ever pulled up to an intersection, a train goes by. It's just one cart after the other. It doesn't take more than a couple carts to go by, and all you're thinking, I can hardly wait to the caboose. And that's what, for all those that are presenters out there, there's a real good chance, unless you get good at storytelling, doing pattern interrupt, taking people on a journey, and breaking up your patterns, then most people are not listening to what you're saying. They're busy praying for the caboose. So I have that honest, blunt discussion with my clients. Because really, most people don't hire me because they want to speak. They hire me because they want to produce an outcome. They want people to know something and to feel something, to do something. But you cannot do that if you're bad at presentation. So when people hire us, I coach each one of them. I coach the flow of the show, the breaks, the timing. There's nuances. There's all those things so that at the end of it, people aren't exhausted. They're invigorated. They're not wondering about what to do. They're ready to do. And that's how you break out of that.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that, it is about attentions, and, any good video that you've enjoyed, go back and have a look at that. So if you're somebody who's thinking about producing videos, or any of our clients that are listening to this or watching this episode, and you are looking at content, the reason we got Bill here on the podcast and on the videos is so that you can learn from somebody who's has been a professional director, producer, and is now an incredible author. I just want to quickly touch on your book, The 7 Disciplines for Relationship Marketing. I think I'm not going to give any secrets away, because I want anyone who's listening to this to take the time to jump on Amazon or eBay. We'll drop the links in to get a copy of your great book. As we kind of sort of start thinking about wrapping up, what's next for you, Bill? Like, what are you working on right now, and what is the next 24 months for you?
Well, I'm more giddy and excited about things than I've ever been in my life. And part of it has to do with the fact that, when you say thousands of productions, that includes thousands of mistakes, thousands of learning lessons, but every single one of those has been a stepping stone to a foundation of where we are today. And so in addition to our agency, we're just loving helping these companies do virtual events, because it allows me to have a more intimate relationship with really help them presentation. When you do the live events, they think, oh, I got that covered. With virtual, they realize I don't, and I get to really help them get good at presenting. We're having a lot of brand videos. People are understanding the power of video and micro brand stories to really help create differentiation and create a gateway to understanding. And I'm loving doing that. And I've got a great team that I'm getting to mentor and grow. But I also have another company called the Superhero Alliance, where we're developing programming, really cause-driven programming. So it kind of takes me back to my roots, and it could be, I can't go into the details, but I will tell you a little secret, that if you see behind me, you see an Iron Man back there. And part of that Iron Man is rooted because I consulted with a group called the Stan Lee Foundation. And Stan Lee, was behind Superman and Iron Man and all that. And one of the things that was central to his characters was this, that inside every flawed human being is a superhero waiting to emerge. And we're in a place where I think there's a lot of folks, in fact, most marketing, as marketing has increased, tragically, most marketing is not always about solutions. It's about selling you on your inadequacy. It's saying that you're not good enough unless you buy this. You're not good enough unless you wear this. You're not good enough unless you smell like this. And when you're bombarded with that sheer volume, we have a world that's questioning their value. They're questioning, can I dream? Can I believe? Or do opportunities still exist? And do opportunities exist for me? And so I'm really looking forward to, with this and even my next book, to let people know that, yes, inside every flawed human being, and that's you, is a superhero. And I believe if we can encourage that and give people the tools to grow that and develop that, I think we can incrementally change the condition of our world that is bent on destruction and self-hate sometimes, and to say, how can you really look in the mirror, and instead of pretending to be something you're not, celebrate who you are and become the best version of yourself. If I can use media to do that, that's going to be a part of my legacy and something I'm most excited about.
That's absolutely fantastic, and I think that's a great point to say. So if you're somebody who's listening, you want to get deeper into your brand story. If you're somebody who's listening, you want to get deeper into your brand messaging. If you're somebody who's listening and you want to get deeper into your brand soul, then we're going to drop the links below this in the description to Sprint Media and Bill's website. I'm really excited to. I'm like, hurry up and finish this book because I want the next one. So I am really excited. But Bill, what's your favorite social media platform? What's the favorite side door of your house to let your friends in, for people to contact you from our audience?
I am always standing at the door with my arms wide open on LinkedIn. I've just really found that it seems like we not only have a heart, but it's the financial engine of our agency is working with businesses that want to tell their story well, want to make a difference in the world, and want to do what they're doing much better. And so LinkedIn has been a great place to connect with me, and it's probably the one I'm most faithful to actually post on. Unlike, thank you for mentioning Facebook. Oh, I've been, I've been kind of an absentee there, but we'll get back to it.
Look, look, honestly, I'm not sure where look, just to as a sidebar and a bit of bonus value for everyone listening, I'm not sure where Facebook's going to go, to be honest. Like we did really well on Facebook about 5 or 6 years ago, and we post now. We get like zero traction, and then that is not audience driven, that is algorithm driven. That, I think you do need to consider the nuances of the platform. When people are consuming LinkedIn content, they are very much in the business mindset, maybe in their office, in their home office or their work, or, at work, consuming that content or commuting. And they're in a very business, I want to learn, I want more technical detail about my career. If somebody's on YouTube, for example, they're in an exploratory mode because they're wanting to, they're searching questions and they want to learn, unless obviously they're a younger generation consuming music videos. But I think that we've got to consider the nuances of the platform and the mindset that our audience is in at that time. So I do think that's important. But I'm going to give you permission to not worry too much about Facebook right now. I just, even LinkedIn, we've had a lot of success on LinkedIn. The last couple of weeks, LinkedIn has gone flat. But I can say what we've observed is that in the news feed, certainly for our, hypothesis here in our office is that, you might have had, and like TV is exactly the same as TV because their revenue channel is predominantly advertising. They went from 4 organic posts, then an ad. So if you're looking at your news feed, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, then an ad. And when you open the mobile app, that's what you're getting. Now we've gone to 3 organic posts and an ad. So they've gone from 20% of the feed being ads to now 25% of the feed being ads. So the block of the TV show and the ad block got bigger, and the TV show that you want to consume got shorter. And they've obviously ramped up their revenue because there's obviously demand for ads. So I think even that has taken organic reach away from a lot of people. But what I can say right now is TikTok is there's a lot of organic reach right now, and I think if that's what you're looking for, as opposed to paid placement, that's something to think about. But okay, if you need me to connect you with Bill, if you want an introduction and you're not confident to go straight to him, then I'm more than happy to do that for any of our viewers and listeners. We'll drop Bill's handle for his LinkedIn in our description and our show notes. I just want to say how incredibly grateful I am for crossing paths with you in my life, and you've added a huge amount of value to me and a huge amount of value to our audience and a huge amount of value to hundreds of thousands of people that have been to all those incredible shows and all those incredible events. And I'm really grateful for all of the hard work that you've done and deploying your talents, and it would have been unethical of you to keep it all to yourself. So, so I'm super excited. Is there like a secret working title for this next book?
The next book will be Discovering Your Brand Soul.
Nice. All right, well, As soon as that's out, we're going to get you back on the show. I'm super excited. I've had a great time with you today, Bill, and I'm really grateful for all of your time and all of your efforts and our audience. So please reach out to Bill. We'll drop his LinkedIn handle again there in the show notes. So if you don't see me on Instagram, if you don't see me on Facebook, because you probably won't because the algorithm won't serve it to you anyway, and if you don't see me out on LinkedIn, you will definitely see us right here next time on Best Practice TV. Bill, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you. Bye for now.